Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today I wanted to finish my Black History Month TBR by talking about the poetry of Langston Hughes. When I got this collection of poems, I didn't realize that Hughes himself had collected the poems from all of his work into this collection, and I read the entire collection as a part of my reading for February, and I was really kind of amazed by the variety of work and subjects and themes and ways in which Langston Hughes wrote poetry. And one of the things I think that impressed me the most, one of the things that struck me the most, is how much kind of history there is in Hughes's poems. So if you don't know, Langston Hughes is probably the most famous poet of the Harlem Renaissance. He kind of came to prominence during that flowering of African American culture that took place in New York City, and then influenced and affected American culture, well, from then until now. But his career lasted a lot longer than just the period of time of the Harlem Renaissance, and over the course of his career I think he touched on almost every subject important to the African American community. His poems, run the gamut from kind of funny to ironic to sad. Some of his poems read like the lyrics to blues songs. Some of his poems are angry, some of them are defiant, some of the poems are hopeful, and they cover, like I said, all the topics affecting African American society in the United States of America, really over the course of his lifetime. So I thought the best way to kind of talk about Langston Hughes' poems was just to read a selection of his poetry. So I've marked in my copy of the book the poems I want to read, and so I'm just going to read, I think for the rest of this video, some examples of Hughes's poetry. So this first poem is from the collection called Shadow of the Blues, and that probably says a lot about how it reads. So here we go. This poem is called Could Be. Could be Hastings Street or Lenox Avenue. Could be 18th and Vine and still be true. Could be 5th and Mound. Could be Rampart. When you pawn my watch, you pawn my heart. Could be you love me. Could be that you don't. Might be that you'll come back. Like as not, you won't. Hastings Street is weary, also Lenox Avenue. Any place is dreary without my watch and you. So, I mean, that literally reads to me like a blues lyric. It's got kind of the sadness of, obviously a man being left, but it's also got that kind of funny, kind of wry humor of talking about the watch that she pawned as well. So the second poem I want to read is from the collection called Sea and Land. And this poem is called Long Trip. The sea is a wilderness of waves, a desert of water. We dip and dive, rise and roll, hide and are hidden on the sea. Day, night, night, day, the sea is a desert of waves, a wilderness of water. So to me, this kind of is an example of Hughes's range. This is, not a rhyming poem. This is kind of modern free verse. It's, not necessarily telling a linear story. It's just a description of the sea, and I think a fairly beautiful one. The third poem I want to read is from his collection called Lament Over Love, and that is actually the name of this poem, Lament Over Love. I hope my child will never love a man. I say I hope my child will never love a man. Love can hurt you more than anything else can. I'm going down to the river, and I ain't going there to swim. Down to the river, ain't going there to swim. My true love's left me, and I'm going there to think about him. Love is like whiskey. Love is like red, red wine. Love is like whiskey, like sweet red wine. If you want to be happy, you got to love all the time. I'm going up in a tower, tall as a tree is tall. Up in a tower, tall as a tree is tall. Gonna think about my man and let my fool self fall. So again, this is like a blues lyric, and notice in this poem that it's kind of like in the dialect of the South. Well, the fourth poem I want to read is called Third Degree. Third Degree is in the collection called Name and Uphill Letters. So Third Degree. Hit me, jab me, make me say I did it. Blood on my sport shirt and my tan suede shoes. Faces like jack-o'-lanterns in gray slouch hats. Slug me, beat me, scream jumps out like blowtorch. 3 kicks between the legs that kill the kids I'd make tomorrow. Bars and floor skyrocket and burst like Roman candles. When you throw cold water on me, I'll sign the paper. So this is clearly a poem about police brutality and about the injustice with which African Americans were treated, oftentimes by the justice system and by the police. A similar poem to that, I think, in theme, comes from the series, and this is really actually one of the most, I think, powerful collection of poems he has, called Montage of a Dream Deferred. And this poem is called Not a Movie. Not a movie. Well, they rocked him with road apples because he tried to vote, and whipped his head with clubs, and he crawled on his knees to his house, and he got the midnight train, and he crossed that Dixie line, and now he's living on 133rd. He didn't stop in Washington, and he didn't stop in Baltimore, neither in Newark on the way. 6 knots on his head, but thank God he wasn't dead, and there ain't no Ku Klux on 133rd. During the Great Migration, thousands and thousands of African Americans fled the racist, segregationist violence of the South, looking for greater freedom, looking for more opportunities, looking to escape the hate organizations like the Klan in the South. Often what Hughes writes about quite often then is that experience of African Americans living in New York City. And so my next poem is called Subway Rush Hour. Subway Rush Hour is also part of that montage of a dream deferred. So this is Subway Rush Hour. Mingled breath and smell so close, mingled black and white so near, no room for fear. And again, this is just kind of a discussion or a poem about the experience of living in the North and African Americans and white Americans living so close together that they mingle together on trains close enough to smell one another's breath, living, so close together as they do in the cities that they don't have time to fear one another. And then the last poem I want to read is called I Too. I Too is from the collection called Words Like Freedom. So this is I Too. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when the company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. So again, I think this is just an expression of hope Langston Hughes has, of kind of defiance that one day African Americans will in fact overcome the discrimination that they faced in the United States of America. So I really enjoyed this collection of poetry. I had only read a little bit of Langston Hughes before, and as you may know from some of my other videos, poetry is not necessarily my best thing, but what appealed to me about Hughes's poetry was the sense of history that's in it, and being a history person, I really responded to that. Anyway, that's my discussion of the poetry of Langston Hughes. Let me know what you think about it, and let me know what you think about the poems. Let me know if you have a favorite Langston Hughes poem that I didn't read, and like always, thanks for watching.